Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. All I ask is that you think.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, and welcome to another episode of Just My 3 Cents, the podcast, a live, rapid-fire, interactive podcast where you can jump on and participate with me as we try to attempt to make it make sense, as we have dialogues on race, sex, and culture, and ultimately, we attempt to raise the culture. So for those who don't know, I have the Mental Dialogue talk show every Saturday morning. I always highlight that every show. That's been the staple for the last 6 years, where we've basically raising awareness and reigniting the commitment to excellence through excellent dialogues on race, sex, and culture. And so I basically came to video. Shout out to one of my Queens of Intellect members, Deasia Robinson, who has, who's helped me set up the video. Shout out to One Institution. They're behind me starting a video show. So it's a 30-minute rapid live interaction, rapid fire podcast. So we bring up issues in reference to race, sex, and culture, and you can jump on. So you should see the link on Facebook. Oh, actually, let me make sure it's on Facebook. Hold on one second. Let me make sure. Let me put the link on Facebook. It's already on Facebook. Let me put it on YouTube, I meant to say. So keep in mind, as I'm dialoguing, you can jump on. So the place I wanted to start today was actually driven by basically something that happened on this past Saturday's Mental Dialogue talk show. I was basically taking the time, it was the end of the year, and I was honoring my Queens of Intellect members and highlighting Black women. And so real quick, for those that don't know, the Queens of Intellect are basically a cadre of sisters that I always ensure are basically co-hosting with me every Saturday for the Mental Dialogue talk show, making sure that we always have a woman's perspective. And I wanted to highlight what each of them did. And so in that dialogue, we highlighted them, and we also talked about, in a sense, Black women, where they, to a degree, where in their opinions, where they misunderstood or understood within the African American community. So excellent dialogue. Highly recommend that you actually go listen to that. What I wanted to do now was, I got a response to something. Go to the IG page for those that don't know, mental_dialogue. I put up a post, just a quick cut from the show on Saturday, and I had this amazing sister respond to it. I wanted to read that response, and that'll get us deep into tonight's dialogue, which, if you've seen the promotion, says child molestation, a mother's secret. And so what happened was, I was just giving an example on the show in reference to, unfortunately, child abuse or sexual abuse of children. I gave this example on the show. Let me give a little context, and then I'll read this comment from one of my followers. So basically, I gave this comment as I was dialoguing. Matter of fact, I was talking to, I think it was Ashley, one of my Queens of Intellect members at that time. And I was saying to her, that unfortunately, there are some issues that get thrown into the gender war. And quite often, one of those being, in a sense, child sexual abuse, and in a sense, where the men are the protection of men. And I was saying, and I was just using this as an example. And I was saying, but for example, and when it comes to child sexual abuse, a lot of times it's not just whether the men are there to protect or do we give men passes. It's, unfortunately, men and women are both in on it quite often, unfortunately, including parents sometimes with their own children. And the reason I was highlighting that, because I was saying it's unfair to reduce it to a gender situation, when reality, as an African-American culture, we need to own up to, in my opinion, the level that we allow shame to overtake basically the protection of children. So I made that, I was just using it as an example. And so when I used that example, one of my followers on IG said this. I want to read this post to you. So let me pull it up real quick. All right, hold on one second. I'm gonna pull up this post. I thought I had it lined up. I guess I don't, because I was doing too much. Right, I was doing so much promotion. I didn't have it. Thought I had it lined up. Let me pull it up real quick. Give me a second here. Sorry about that. I normally had this stuff lined right away to go, but I messed around and moved off of it as I was promoting for this tonight. All right, here we go. Here it is, I think. No, that's not it. All right, where is it? Okay, here it is. Dang, I can't. Oh man, I'm hurt. Oh, I'm missing it. I had it lined up. Excuse me. Give me a second, y'all. Let me find it real quick. Where's the comment? Oh, here it is. Yep, here it is. Got it. All right, bear with me, y'all. So this was, in a sense, one of my followers' comment in reference to me highlighting that, for unfortunately, child molestation and child sexual abuse is a culture issue that's not just simply, men or women. It's an issue where, unfortunately, a lot of times shame is the issue. And so this sister said this in reference to, in a sense, why it happens to a degree. And this is what she said. And this is what I want the dialogue about. And hopefully some of y'all will jump on with me and have this dialogue with me. Let me make sure I got the comments too. Y'all can put comments too. If you're scared to jump on live on the video, you can actually put comments as well. All right, I got it going. All right, listen up. To add to the discussion about our culture, including mothers pushing abuse under the rug, I would say, because sometimes for some moms, advocating for their daughters who have experienced a certain type of abuse may bring them face to face with their own abuse. And for some, that is painful to connect with, and their daughter's truth is re-traumatizing them. Furthermore, certain abuses could have occurred before cognition was developed, so a mom could be triggered and disconnected and not be fully aware of the reason. Also, I think some mothers choose not to disclose / protect, not always due to shame, but fear of how a father might respond. Therefore, a mother may decide not to tell / advocate for her daughter because exposing this to her husband may cause him to respond violently. Then she may risk losing him to death or prison. I think some feel that once the father is informed, it is no longer under control and justify the act by thoughts such as she was going to lose her virginity at some point anyway, and it already happened. Let's not make this worse, to calm their own spirit. Lastly, I think to go back to the Black woman's plight is largely dependent on her positionality at the time. Within the context, is she acting as a wife, mother, girlfriend, potential mate, sister, daughter, friend, etc. Based on her understanding of her role at the moment, her plight is constantly changing and evolving. I love this response because, again, when I highlighted it on the show and I was just using it as an example, it wasn't the exact dialogue. I was just using it as an example. But the follower chose to point out that part. And ultimately, her response opened me up to more than just shame. I got a comment here from DA. She says, now that part about she's going to lose her virginity anyway is silly. I agree, DeAsia. And I understand that the person that's responding is just basically laying out how people might think, like how they may rationalize or how they may justify. I know you probably understand that, but I agree. Very silly thought. I'll say my butt is, for those, if you've never seen how we rock, I go by Black Socrates. I might have even forgot to say that at the beginning, but how I rock is I try to get into the other person's shoes. And that was just big exposure because, again, I've always felt that one of the reasons child molestation goes pretty much, basically they get away with it, if you will, specifically in the Black community, in my opinion, is because that's one of the issues we sweep under the rug the hardest, to include women doing some of the things you just heard her say, but I've never even given perspective to all that could be considered. Let me see what else the agent is saying here. She says, don't nobody think like that besides the person who wrote it. I don't think she thinks like that. I think she's writing in my opinion, she's writing what the perspectives and how people might rationalize. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing to rationalize, right? Let's be honest. We know that at the end of the day, if a child has been harmed through some type of child molestation, whether it's daughter or son, there is no rationalization for making sure that child is taken care of. I think that what I'm reading here is this sister just getting basically saying what type of rationalization, which is irrational, to rationalize the abuse of a child. Let's start there. I think we're both in agreement with that, DeAsia, and I would even assume the person that wrote that agrees. But for me, it was eye-opening to see from the perspective, because again, I know of an example of a friend of mine years ago that when she was 11 years old, I guess maybe one of her older cousins basically I don't know, molested her, raped her, one of the two case or whatever, and she's 11-year-old, not really knowing how to bring it forward, but mention it to her mom, and her mom really almost, the way she remembers it is as if her mom almost did not want to hear it. She almost dismissed it as if she didn't hear it. Now, she knows in her mind, she remembers telling her mom in some form or fashion, but her mom's response was almost as if she did not take it in and never delved into it at all. So when I hear examples like that, that's an example of what I was saying on the show, that we allow shame to overtake the protection of a child. That's for me, a classic example. And for me, when I heard that story, I always empathize. I was, fortunate enough to never experience anything like this, but I always empathize, and it just blows my mind to even think about. Again, I never experienced this, but it blows my mind to think, what does that child have to go through to watch a parent, in a sense, not come to their rescue? And we've done shows on mental dialogue about child molestation with, where we've had actually people who have and told us about the dialogue. And I remember the one guest we had on the show, she unfortunately experienced it several times, and unfortunately her family had never done anything about it. And it's obviously is quite shameful. And the reality is, as a community, to a degree, we will all say it's shameful. In a sense, we'll say it's a shame that we sweep it under the rug, but where's the dialogue about what to do versus sweeping it under the rug? Or what I just read here, because I definitely have always pushed back as I was saying in the beginning, I've always pushed back against, in a sense, that there is a narrative of men not being protective. Because when I've been in these dialogues, I've always pointed out, being from South Carolina and hearing of these circumstances, I've always heard of the type of men that would handle it or who would do something about it. I firsthand seen families go out of the way to ensure the man who is protective not find out about the situation, just like the follower said in this post. Say word about the father responding violently to the extent that they end up hurting themselves or hurting someone else, violently going to jail, or even possibly losing their life in trying to respond to their son or daughter being molested by someone. So I'm very aware of family secrets that have basically avoided the ear of the men in the family who are protective. The men who are not looked at like that, they may get wind, but everybody ends up agreeing. Unfortunately, we don't want to lose the patriarch of the family. And so therefore it ends up being a family secret at the detriment. And we always talk about, especially on social media, we just had the holidays, and people talk about the idea of, having to be at the table with your molester because the family hasn't done something. Let me see what else Deasia got here saying. She says a mother should tell the father, and they should get the authorities involved. People forget they can call the police. Absolutely, Deasia. I mean, I think you know enough about me that I advocate for that 100%. Because and I've always said, due to our unfortunate relationship with the police, there's plenty of times, and I've said this even about women. Let me say this as a side, because it's the exact same thing. I say this as an aside all the time. There's even women who, because of our relationship with the police, where we try to avoid calling the police on our community, and specifically our Black men, if you will. I've even seen women be protective and not call even when that man is the abuser. Deasia, I'm with you 100%. I know 100%. You calling the cops every time, because that's what I say. That's what we should advocate for. When I've even suggested it to other people, sometimes people push back because they're still having to process this idea of our community having this unfortunate relationship with the police to where we don't call. So specifically in this situation, absolutely tell the father, call the cops. The reality is, if I'm that father, she gonna have to call the cops, because if I can you might have to call the cops and say, hey, get over there before Montoya hurt this dude. But definitely tell me and call the cops. Maybe call the cops first, but tell me. Don't have me as no family secret, because ultimately there have been times, unfortunately, where even that family secret backfires from the standpoint backfires even to the standpoint where the family secret gets out 2 years later, 8 years later, 10 years later, and it's a completely devastating for that father to find out 8 years later, to find out that their daughter has went something that, come to find out, and it's not every scenario, but in some scenarios, come to find out his wife didn't tell him, feels betrayed. The daughter was told by the wife not to tell, so he feels betrayed. And now he's devastated because he couldn't protect his daughter or do nothing about it. You know what I mean? And so the family secret don't always stay the family secret, or it comes out later when that young girl or young boy is older and is an adult and starts spraying out, hey, my family did not protect me. Got the Asia jumping on this thing with me. I'm gonna get her in here with me. My family did not protect me. And if one parent's in the know versus one parent's not, that one parent that's not in the know, typically the man, is completely blindsided, not having any idea. And it's quite understandable that that child is completely upset and feels let down by their family. What's up, Deasia? What you got for me, Queen?
Hey, I think it's very important for the mother to tell the father if she's not going to do something, because I've actually had this particular case, and it was a thing where I had a friend that was molested when she was little. And what she did, she went years. She didn't tell her mom until she was in her 40s that she was molested, right? So when the whole time, because she never did say anything, she felt like she wasn't being protected. It was something about the situation that she felt like her mom should have known something was different about her. So she didn't feel protected in that situation. When she told her mom, now her mom is like, oh my God, I wish you would have told me when this happened. I could, because now the person is dead that did it to her. I wish you could have told me, because I could have protected you and prevented this from happening. So in this particular case, in the scenario that you got going on, if it's a case where this little girl, she is molested and she tells her mom and nothing is done about it, she's going to feel like she didn't get protection from her mom or her father. Absolutely. But the whole time, really, when you look at it and you're like, I'm not going to tell the father because he might go after the victim. Essentially, you're protecting the victim.
After the abuser.
I mean, going after the abuser, right? Essentially, you're protecting the abuser. Absolutely. At that particular point. So that girl is going to grow up feeling like you guys did not protect her, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's very important to tell. And I think that, you know, a woman has her way of being able to talk to her man and kind of like talk him off the edge, or whatever the case may be. Right. And hopefully she's able to. A lot of times, you know, when something like that happened, they be fired up and everything like that, of course, you know. But I think she could probably get to him and let him know, you know, let's call the authorities, get the authorities involved, or let me call. You know, we can't necessarily say, hey, we can't say that we need our men to protect us, and then we're afraid to tell them things in order to protect us. If you want to protect our men and keep them from going to jail or hell behind something, then we need to be proactive and start letting them know, hey, it's okay to call the authorities if it's a situation that ends up being a premeditated type of situation. If it's like a heat of passion or something,
it is what
it is. If it's like right there and that person like right there in the same vicinity and they find it out, you can't tell him how to respond or whatever, or something happened right then. But if it's a case where there's some distance between him and that person or whatever, you gotta call you don't want him to go out and do anything, because now it's premeditated. Correct. You know what I'm saying? So he really don't have a fighting chance, you know what I'm saying? But we have to get comfortable with, you know, telling them what is going on, because it could be a case where you never know how crazy that man is behind his kids and behind his family. I've heard of a case that a man found out later in life that his child was molested, and he committed suicide because he couldn't do excuse me, because he was like, because he, you know what I'm saying, he was so hurt behind it, and the guilt that he carried because he couldn't he couldn't protect his child or whatever the case may be, and that actually happened or whatever. Because think about it, if you don't let this person know, I would hate to think about it, Montoya, if you had a daughter or son, it does,
Yeah, exactly.
and you find out years later,
I can't imagine that.
You're gonna be devastated.
That's what I was saying.
When you could have did something, you could have, even if you didn't go out and react and take matters into your own hand, you could have at least gotten the authorities involved to protect your child.
The worst part, like you said, whereas we're both advocating call the police immediately because because obviously, like you said, in the moment, like there was just a situation about 3 or 4 months ago where a guy actually had a little boy babysitting his son or whatever. He comes back and catches him in the act, and he literally almost beats him to death and calls the police, saying he's almost dead, and he got no charges naturally.
Right.
In the moment. So anyway, I'm just highlighting that to say that, like you said, years later is so devastating because at the end of the day, if we didn't even get the abuser, if that person's still walking scot-free, like we didn't do nothing. We did not do nothing. And now it's, can I trust my significant other if I found out she was in on it? It ain't always your wife.
Yeah.
When it comes to these families, sometimes it's the aunt who knows or whoever gets wind of it, who discovers it or finds out, because a lot of time, if it's a regular abuse situation, that abuser is definitely has a child afraid, right? So the child's afraid, doesn't know how to tell, doesn't tell, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes in those cases, it gets discovered by somebody else. It ain't always the mother and the father. But again, the sad part is the fact that if you think about it, the sad part from a cultural standpoint, again, the goal is to raise the culture. It's a sad part. It's sad that as a culture, to a degree, at least in the South, I don't know about other parts of the country, but just because of history of things I know in the South, it's kind of sad that we know it's normal for it to be hidden. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just the concept that we know is normal to be hidden. And as I said in the beginning, we all say that's very shameful, but I don't hear the dialogues for what to do, which is simply call the damn police. Like, we have to make the disconnect from our relationship with the police and always use them in situations like this. Like even criminals don't care for molesters. So why the hell we out here in the public trying to worry about a damn abuse?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's too many molesters at the holiday table. I'm not saying just in our community. That happens, black, white people, all around the situation, because those manipulative abusers and molesters, obviously, if they're regular molesters, they know what they're doing and they know how to control it, all that kind of stuff. But no reason that we shouldn't be telling. And here's the other part, like I said in the beginning before the sister gave her response. For some people, I know it is unfortunately shame to the family. The example I gave them, the friend I know about, her mother almost act like she didn't hear her because she didn't even want to deal with that could have happened in their family. You know what I'm saying? Like, put that on their family name, that one of our family members potentially raped or molested another family member because they got a good name in the town. I know that goes on, unfortunately. And that's just straight shame alone takes priority over the protection of children. Damn shame.
Yeah, and that's so sad because got this child molester in the family. They're going to negatively, down the line, it's gonna mess up your family name even more so, because now you got all of these traumatized children that's growing into an adult and they don't know how to function because they've been molested as a kid. And one thing I know, I've talked to a whole bunch of people that dealt with childhood trauma, and there's certain things that they've been able to cope with. Child molestation is one that I've never seen anybody actually get over. I've never seen it. They've learned it don't matter what comes up. If they interacting with the opposite sex, same sex, or whatever the case may be, it's always going to be some type of hiccup with them, and I sympathize with them. And it's so unfortunate that a family would keep the child molester around. If nothing else, it don't have to be shame on the family. If nothing else, exile them from the family, excommunicate them, just keep them from around you. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, it's like it ain't the whole town. It ain't like you got to go on a bullhorn and like speak out and just tell everybody. But here's the thing: it needs to be outed because this person is molesting kids in the family, but you never know, that person might also be stepping out molesting kids in the neighborhood. Child molester is a child molester. So you're not only putting your family in danger by not saying anything, but you're putting all the rest of the kids in danger for not saying anything. That's the reason why sex offenders have to register as a sex offender, because it doesn't, just because they did something to someone in the family, it doesn't stay in the family. You best to believe they're molesting kids outside of the family, because you got to be a cold piece of work. I'm sure the last result was for them to start messing with kids in their family. You got to be a cold piece to start messing with children in your fucking family. You get what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure they're messing with other people's kids.
Well, like you said, just the fact that they're having to register, that means after having even spent time because of the mental illness they typically have, that they're still having to register. Because if you're registering, that means you did spend time, and they're still letting everybody know, we'll look out for this person, because even though they've served their time, they may still have this illness. So we're putting you on notice, which ends up being all the more reason we should be outing them publicly to everywhere. Like it ain't no shame. It's actually bigger and more impressive that you will be willing to do it, especially coming from a culture who swept this kind of stuff under the rug. That's why it's went on so long. Like, wouldn't you be super impressed by a family that would be willing to out some teenager or grown man that's been touching, and you'd have to find out through the back end, or why did he go to jail? Like, no, we telling before he went to jail. It's everywhere, and we call the police on this raggedy. Like that would actually be the way to do it. I say pull out a bullhorn on their ass.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think a child molester can be reformed. I think it's one of the, like, if they've been locked up for it or whatever the case may be. The thing is, nothing can stop you from being attracted to what you're attracted to. I don't think that they could be reformed now, because of once they receive consequences for their actions or whatever, they might not actually act on it.
Right.
That's just like you have a lot of people who are, gay and all this old kind of stuff or whatever the case may be. Because of shame, they might live a life where they marry a woman. You know what I'm saying? They have kids and everything, but in their heart they're attracted to the same sex for real.
Yeah.
But they try to walk a certain way. And the same thing with a child molester. You're trying to walk a certain way, but you're sexually attracted to a kid, and nothing can actually change your sexuality. I don't feel like anything could change your sexuality.
Well, so, again, that's part of. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so that's what they're attracted to. So my thing is, they need to be, once a child, I really feel like child molester should be sentenced to death. I really do feel that. I don't feel like you should, because guess what? You actually ruin somebody. You actually ruin somebody's life. You know what I'm saying? They'll never be the same. They'll never get the experience. That's the reason why I didn't like that part where that lady had said that, people would say, probably, the reason why I don't come out is because the mother might think she's gonna lose her virginity anyway. There ain't nobody thinking like that. That's the reason why I said ain't nobody thinking like that, because guess what? We always look at virginity like this is your innocence. You know what I'm saying? This is something that we teach people, or especially girls. You wait till you give this to somebody that is special, somebody is worth. Everybody is teaching their girl that. So I'm not thinking nobody is sitting up here just being casual about it and saying, hey, you know what, she's gonna lose her virginity anyway. Don't worry about it. Like that's not.
I don't think she's being.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm saying I don't think she's being casual though, but I definitely see what you're saying because of how it's respected. you don't agree with it at all. I don't think she meant it as casually coming up with that. I thought she was saying, to a degree, just a lame rationalization for why they might not say something. People try to use anything in their mind for why they're rationalizing something they know to be wrong. But I feel you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I just don't think she thought, the person's being casual. She just said they might come up with something silly as such. And I'm not saying she's right. I'm just saying I don't think she meant it casually. But we are at the end of our time. So thank you so much, Queen. This is a live, rapid fire, interactive broadcast. And so thank you so much for holding me down once again, DH.
Well, I'm glad I was able to jump on here. I can't I don't know what else you just said because I can't even hear you. But I kind of read your lips a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go ahead. It's probably on my end or whatever. So thanks for having me.
Definitely.
You have a good night.
All right, thank you, Queen. Appreciate you. All right, as I always end it, I'm gonna share a piece from my book. Actually, this piece is a little different. Every week I have a book, upcoming book on race, sex, and culture, Necessary Conversations, just my 3 cents on race, sex, and culture. And I end the show with a piece from my book. This piece, I'm contemplating putting it in the book. So if you make it to the end, or if you're still watching, please give me a thumbs up or a yes if I should add this piece to the book. I'm pretty much finished with the book. I'm just adding some. It's a discussion book where basically you create dialogues on race, sex, and culture. And so this is a piece that I wrote, and I'm contemplating putting in the book. It absolutely fits tonight's discussion, but let me know if it should be added to the book. And keep this in mind. All the commentaries are designed for people to have dialogue about the commentary that you're hearing, for example. So it's a book where you read a commentary, share it with others, and y'all have a dialogue. So this piece is called, let me pull it up. All right. This piece, Black Socrates Speaks, is what I always call my pieces. So Black Socrates Speaks, Sucker Niggas, and Our Embarrassment. The worst thing about weak motherfuckers who harm children is someone probably did the same shit to them when they were children. But even worse, the only excuse we use as society for not putting a stop to this repeat cycle is embarrassment. What the fuck is embarrassment? Embarrassment ain't shit. When are we going to own the fact that our unwarranted, funky ass, whack ass shame and embarrassment allows these perpetrators of domestic violence and child sexual abuse to surf the waves of our embarrassment to their next victim? Why the fuck are our families more embarrassed than outraged when this happens? Sometimes we will even look at the survivor's decision making in the situation as if it somehow played a role in their own abuse. Like I told her to leave that man alone. He's too jealous. Or mistakenly act in disbelief at the moment our child calls out our favorite pervert sibling or cousin and says something like, "Are you sure this really happened?" Right after they got the courage to finally say something. What the fuck is wrong with us? We really get beside ourselves as if we've made it safe for them to get help in the first place. Why? Because of our own goddamn embarrassment. Fuck embarrassment. Stop pointing the finger elsewhere in hopes of avoiding the mirror and being held up to our own weak ass behavior when this abuse takes place inside of our own families, all over a little goddamn embarrassment. Honestly, I understand in some cases of domestic violence, it can be tricky and not easy to get involved or resolve. But can we at least draw the line in the sand on child sexual abuse? Truthfully, I couldn't imagine my future son or daughter being violated and calling a 1-800 number instead of me. No way any of us can point the finger, though, especially when I've heard plenty of upstanding families choosing silence over outing the perpetrator. Too many stories of child sexual abuse victims attending holiday dinners with their abuser in attendance. And in more cases than not, they didn't even have the decency to get the victim therapy. Maybe it was just too cost prohibitive, or more than likely, the goddamn embarrassment was just too expensive of a price to pay. So childhood innocence was sacrificed instead. Truthfully, we need to buy a bullhorn and call out all these motherfuckers out like a Tribe Called Quest. Hey, sucker niggas, wherever you are. Hey, sucker niggas, wherever you are. Matter of fact, go tell it on the mountain. Fuck all of us and our goddamn embarrassment. Salute. See y'all on Saturday, 10 a.m. for the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. I'm out. Let me know if I should put that piece in the book or not. Give me thumbs up. Yes, let me know if I need to put that piece in the book. All right, we out.